Wing Commander Arun Kaul. Our chief guest today is Air Chief Marshal S.K.Kaul, PDSL MDC, the former Chief of Air Staff. Thank you very much for being here with us today, sir. We also have with us Air Marshals A.K. Singh and Air Marshal P.D. Athavale with us. Thank you.
I'll start right in the beginning from my childhood. My father, he was a freedom fighter. He was a Gandhian, both by nature and profession. He worked for Gandhi Foundation for a long time. And he was a social worker. And a social worker at heart. He was the secretary with the Rajasthan state government as the social welfare secretary. But it was not just by qualification or by the vocation that he was doing welfare. He was a person, the finest human being I have come across. And he taught me that life actually means only giving. It doesn't need to be or doesn't have to be transactional. Everything you do is for somebody else, and that's how we come here for. Those are the set of values which I imbibed when I was growing up. We had our ups and downs, difficult times, or rather very difficult times. People who are Gandhian, people who are principled, are also of the kind who don't bend easily, and he did leave a profession or two on the grounds of principle, and unfortunately contracted acute asthma and was laid up for a fairly long time. We were three siblings, my brother, my sister, all in the best of schools. And that is when I learned what I did from my mother. We survived that difficult period, and we raised, we grew up aspiring for achieving something only by the very tenacity and sacrifice of my mother. And she's very practical. I mean, there was this steel in her, which meant that problems need to be resolved. They have to be caught by the scruff of the neck and resolved there and then. So here I was lucky. I'm sure most of us also be the same. Here I was lucky in getting values from my father and traits from my mother. I need to reiterate that one of the most onerous, one of the most dignified environments is of the services. When I speak of the Air Force, today, from my course itself, we are almost 30 of us here. I am told that every year we have an annual get-together, and 30 don't turn up there. I have coursemates who come in from Chandigarh, from Jaipur, from outside of Delhi. And that is what these services is all about. It creates a camaraderie, it creates bonds which go beyond the blood bonds. In fact, I have realized that if one family stays for you through your life, it is the family you created in the services. And they will never ever let you down. I mean, you actually, in the services, you put your life in the hands of somebody else. So that is the element of trust which you have in your brother. That is how I came into the Air Force, and I found that it was the most dignified thing. I say that I was raised actually on mineral water. Air Force, you can't have a better environment. Arun, the private sector, I don't think you can have a better environment. And then I thought I had done enough circumstances, so I said, I will go out and start writing. This was a so-called passion of mine or dream of mine. And when I came out, that is the first time I tasted normal water. Every relationship which was extended was transactional. Every environment I entered was antithesis of what I had seen in these two places. In fact, I got into an environment for a very short period of time, which was as if it was a totally opposite to what the HR function teaches you. They teach you to work in groups, leadership, trust, buy-in, all that. Here they were teaching you silos. They were making you insecure. They were creating problems for one and the other so that nobody gets confidence or creates problems. I was sort of amazed at this kind of environment. Of course, I didn't continue to remain in that environment. And I came out and I thought I'd do something on my own, but whatever I tried to do, I realized that the world has changed. The world has changed. Gone to the other extreme. You read papers, the nation, the leadership, the scams, the desensitized society, how we're treating women. I don't think there's any dignity of actually being in this country. That's what I thought, and I juxtaposed with the environments I was the first 30 years of my career. I sort of lost. I started thinking, isn't this bad? Can I do something about it? And that is when I said, let me look back at my 30 years and find out which are those people, which are those incidents, which are those environments which have kept me going. And which are those people who feel like beacons? They may be ordinary people. And they remain with you. They are the lighthouses which direct you, actually. And that is when I penned my first story. And then the other stories came about, and it actually became a book. And I realized that this could be my attempt or an effort to create a circle of influence which could create some kind of a change. Or it could be a very small change. One could say, what the heck, what difference can I make? Yes and no. You can if you want to. And I felt that it could be. Theoretically I had read that chaos theory. Some butterfly somewhere in north of Pacific, if it flutters its wings, it can create a storm at the other end of the Pacific. So maybe, I thought maybe my attempt at the circle of influence, people read it, it enlarges, maybe it can create more trust. And maybe it can change some people who can then enlarge it to the other circle. To me personally, I think doing good, being a nice human being, loving people, giving affection, is actually a way to go to heaven. But that doesn't work any longer. That logic doesn't, we need more tangible reasons. So I'll give you one more tangible reason. The survey about the happiness index, the prosperity index, it's been done worldwide. And this index will indicate that which are the happiest of those countries, both in happiness index as well as prosperity index. And you'll find quite a few Scandinavian countries are right up there. And what are the reasons for them to be right up there? But in fact, when I read this, I realized that yes, I haven't actually ever read or heard of a scam taking place in those countries. Then I thought of Switzerland. Can you imagine, the whole world trying to put their money in our country? I think somebody is siphoned off on the way in the house. The other day I read that on the Russian airport, some 3 billion rupees is still lying. I mean, can you imagine that happening in our country ever? I think the guys who are supposed to keep it safe itself will siphon it off. Or maybe fake currency will be printed and counterfeit would be put. Why are these countries happy and why are they prosperous? And they analyzed, the data comes up. The prosperity index, of course, it's got a lot of components, and the larger component is the social capital. In the prosperity index, India would rank, you can well imagine, fairly somewhere. But when you come down to the social capital and you realize that trust between people, trust in systems, trust which translates into transactions, economic transactions, financial transactions, we are 128 or whatever, 140 or country. And we know where we stand. To say that our country is doing extremely well, I think there's something. So there is a more tangible reason to be good. I mean, there are countries which reflect that there is more prosperity and more happiness just by being right and good, having value systems which can bind people, there is trust. So forget whether we are going to heaven or not. Even if we have to remain on this world, we need to have these value systems. This is the sum and substance of how this book has emerged. This book is in 4 segments. On the pride of place, of course, the first segment is on the Indian Air Force. There are 4 stories from my duration within the Indian Air Force. And there's a second segment which is on my own family, the story of my father, mother, sister. And then there is a segment which is stories of friends of their relatives, all indicating giving, how they've contributed to society, how they've given to people. Even if we look back, who are the people who are remembered, great leaders or companies? I mean, you can't respect a company just because it's got a sizable monetary value. I'm sure one respects Infosys more than other companies. So there is a segment on friends and their relatives, and the final segment is on women. Again, a segment which reflects great sacrifice, and which I thought we, especially our society, has been very desensitive towards this segment. So this is the composition of this book, and the whole attempt is to create a circle. I'd like to acknowledge a few people who helped me through this book. Miss Madhuri here, she's been my guide and mentor. I, of course, acknowledge the contribution of my wife, Indra, and my daughter, Gitanjali. Without them, maybe it could have happened faster, but they were very critical. So it actually happened better. If you pass that test, meaning it's ready for others to read, because they're very critical. So acknowledge their contribution. There's a friend of mine, Commander Mittal. Every 2 days he lagged me on and asked me how many more pages have I written. And there's scores of people back there in Ahmedabad egging me on. And everywhere where I've known them who helped me along this journey.
It was indeed a great experience because along with that came the book itself, which I had the privilege and reason to read. And I found it so fascinating that in one go I finished from first place to last place. The man, to say the least, has a flair for writing. I think it is an inner call in him which finally found its true vocation in the form of writing. Because the book itself tells you that. Okay, that's the vibes I got when I read the book, which I remember. The story that he has woven, the constant theme, which is as a result of which the title is given, is that there is truly only one life to give. If you have to give it in this life. Don't wait for the next one. And that comes across in each and every story of his. Be it the story of his parents, whilst it's touched the chords of most hearts, I'm sure. And many of us also had similar kind of experiences, give and take here and there. I found it a very fascinating book. Although mind you, it is just a little over 100 pages, but yet there was so much that this book gave me food for thought to think about. Is my life purposeful? Is there something one can do? These are some of the questions that automatically come to each one of you. Not that somebody dictates to you to do it, but reading the book and the poser that he puts across to you with the story that he is woven in itself is a challenge to you. And look, there's only one life to give and you better give it soon. I'd like to congratulate Arun, not only on my behalf, but on behalf of all of you, I'm sure. And may I request all of you to clap. A book in the waiting, and then some by sheer goading by this young lady, oh, come on, write some more pages and so on. There is yet another book which hopefully will emerge, perhaps not in the year 2030, maybe in 2040. And maybe there is yet another occasion for all of us to meet like this, to applaud another good work by this very fine human being. Having said this about the book, I wish him all success in his writing, in his inner call, and I do hope, I'm quite confident and certain in my mind that this book will be well received all over, because it's about human beings, about human values, especially in today's world. I wish there was much more emphasis on this, be it in our own homes or in schools or in offices or wherever we may be. And this book perhaps will remind all of us in its own small way. Is the flutter of the butterfly that he has produced here, I think. Arun, all the best to you. Thank you once again. Another book in years. Thank you.
Today, as a parent, to witness the book launch of my eldest son, Arun Kaul. I am sure Arun's late father would have been as happy if he was alive. Although I have not gone through the book, but knowing Arun, I can say that the readers will have plenty to learn, imbibe, and enjoy from the stories. I thank each one of you, friends friends and well-wishers of Arun who have gathered here for this big day. All I can say is that it is worth the life I gave in bringing up my children as I am seeing this day today. Thank you.
It was good news when Bhabi, that is what we call her mother. It was good news when Bhabi was posted as the principal of the Retd school. We should not have to live with the sword of transfer hanging over us. The first time we saw and heard our mother cry was when she came home after attending the first day at Retd school. That evening, she went straight into her bedroom without asking for us. We heard muffled sobs from her bedroom. In a while, she emerged and we saw her red eyes. We were left wondering, the Iron Lady, as we called her, had been affected. Later at the dinner table, we learned the truth. She had been moved by the injustice nature had laid on the children through their impairment, but more by the injustice of those managing the school. On the first day, she had observed the inhuman and pathetic conditions to which these small children were subjected to. There was corruption and apathy wherever she lived. Living conditions were appalling. The teaching aids inadequate and the food unfit for human consumption. Even though government was releasing sufficient grants. That night, she sat at the dining table a long time, but didn't have the heart to eat. She couldn't imagine then that a long and arduous battle was about to embroil her life. She couldn't rest until things were corrected. After all, she had to wake up for what nature had done to her. Very quickly, the staff administrators and the contractors realized that corrupt and inept ways were getting to the end. To browbeat my mother and have their way, they united into an unholy nexus to control ways for her downfall. They didn't know our mother as we did. As my mother started pressurizing the contractor regarding the quality of supplies, demonstrating the teaching staff for better quality teaching and the administrative staff for more hygienic conditions, the unholy nexus started enacting a Mahabharata. Though the quality of food being given in the hostel improved, it wasn't up to our mother's satisfaction. She monitored the contractor constantly and personally and even oversaw the purchase of raw material to ensure quality. The contractor felt stifled as the money he was making on procurement dwindled. The staff was hand in glove with every one of the suppliers, stationery, teaching aids and all of the purchases were a source of corruption they had got used to it. To put our mother in trouble, the contractor with all his kitchen staff went on a sudden strike. The staff felt that with this crisis my mother would break down. The children going hungry would be reported to the higher-ups, which in turn would bring action against my mother. The crisis of feeding all the children in the hostel became a priority. Those 2 days, our personal cook at home was asked to make puris, aloo sabzi in bulk at our residence, which was carted to the hostel twice a day. My mother's past reputation for honesty and integrity, coupled with the information of how she had coped with the crisis, resulted in appreciation. The axe fell on the correct stump.
Mrs. Indu Gulati runs Manzil, the school for the underprivileged. She has worked for long years, despite personal tragedy in terms of losing her husband to cancer, despite facing partition, and despite physical accidents that left her bedridden. She has worked for children with special needs. An unfortunate incident when Sonia was a toddler left her in need of special care. Mrs. Gulati ensured that she lives a non-dependent life and extended that goodness to many, many strangers, working for decades in institutions that helped that, and eventually started Manzil.
सबको मेरा प्रणाम। मैंने 30 साल बच्चों के साथ काम किया है। मुझे हैंडीकैप बच्चों के बारे में कुछ पता नहीं था। पर जो ही मेरी बेटी मेरे पास आई तो मैं इस काम के लिए अपने आप को डाल दिया मैंने उस काम में। और इन बच्चों ने जो मुझे प्यार दिया, जो रिगार्ड दिया, वो इन बच्चों के साथ काम करके ही पता चलता है कि आप कितना इन बच्चों में प्यार भरा हुआ है। सिर्फ वो जज कर लेते हैं आपकी बातों से कि कौन उसको प्यार कर रहा है कौन नहीं कर रहा। तो इनके साथ काम करके बहुत ही अच्छा लगा है और बच्चों में बहुत इम्प्रूवमेंट आती है। उनको कभी ज़रूरत नहीं होती कि मेरी सफलता हमें मिलेगी कि नहीं मिलेगी, अपने आप सब मिलते ही प्यार देते हैं और अपने आप ही आगे बढ़ते चले जाते हैं। उनकी एक मुस्कान ही हमारे लिए बहुत ज़्यादा हमें उत्साह देती है कि और काम करें और काम करें। तो जितना भी जिसके पास होता है उसको देना ही चाहिए और वही मेरे को एक प्रेरणा सूत्र सोनिया से मिला है। उसके बाद मेरा स्कूल खोलने का बहुत शौक था, वो मेरा स्कूल पूरा सपना पूरा हुआ है और अब मैं इंटीग्रेटेड स्कूल नॉर्मल गरीब बच्चे भी और उनके साथ दूसरे बच्चों को भी इकट्ठे मिलके ही सिखाना चाहती हूँ और अब तक भी काम करने के लिए हमेशा तैयार रहती हूँ। तो एक कविता मैं लिखती रहती हूँ कई बार कविताएं, तो एक कविता मैंने लिखी है। कल कल करती नदियाँ बहती, कल कल करती नदियाँ बहती, न रुकती चाहे जितनी आए मुश्किल, ना रुकती चाहे कितनी आए मुश्किल। कितनी भी मुश्किल आती है नदी आगे बहती रहती है। पत्थर आ गया, इधर से पानी निकल गया, उधर से निकल गया और उस चलने से, उसकी नदी में के आगे बहने से जो कल की आवाज़ आती है वो हमको उत्साहित करती है। अगर नदी बिल्कुल सीधी चलती जाएगी तो उसमें कुछ आनंद ही नहीं है। तो कठिनाइयाँ आती जाएं और हम उसको पार करते जाएं, ये हमारा है। गाती इछलाती बढ़ती जाती, वो रुकती नहीं है। जैसे मुझे भी फ्लो इतना आता था कि रुका ही नहीं जाता था काम किए बिना। प्रेरणा देती मधुर ध्वनि, जो उसकी ध्वनि है वो हमें हर वक्त प्रेरणा देती है। हर कठिनाई बनती गीत, हर में है मेरा ही मीत। बच्चों में मैं भगवान देखती हूँ, सब अपनी टीचर्स को भी यही कहते हैं, ये बच्चे नहीं है, ये भगवान रूप आए हुए, इनकी जी भर के सेवा करो। थैंक यू।
But I'd like to leave you with some words. When Albert Einstein met Rabindranath Tagore, they had a discussion. During the discussion, Tagore said this of his views on human relationships, and these are his words. He said, matter is of protons and electrons with gaps between them, but matter may seem to be solid. Similarly, humanity is composed of individuals, yet they have their interconnection of human relationship which gives living unity to the world. These are his words. We as people may seem solid, and our relationships to us may seem hazy and easy to ignore. But it is these relationships that are more solid than we ourselves are. And those are the ones which help us extend the goodness and create a circle of trust and influence within everybody. And that is the purpose of this book.